Giuliani. The 22-member Arab League is meeting in Tunisia this weekend to discuss Iraq, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and political reform in the Middle East. Here's the opening plenary session with statements by Arab leaders, including Palestinian Leader Yasser Arafat. This is about an hour, 10 minutes.
بعد يومين من الأشغال سبقتها بلا شك وكما والآن تنطلق في بدء القمة.
أيها الأخوة الأجلاء.
Dear brothers, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to preside the Arab League Summit and to gavel in its 16th edition. In the name of God, the most clement and most merciful, dear brothers, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to welcome you all to Tunis and to express to you my great pride and in your presence, which underscores the long relationships that we have and the solidarity that ties us all together. It is also my pleasure to welcome on your behalf all the guests of this summit, and also would like to express my appreciation for what the Secretary General Omar Moussa has done to improve Arab relations. Dear guests, the eyes of the Arab world are all on us, on our meeting. The Arab world looks forward to decisions that measure up to its aspiration for security and for progress. We have all endeavored to increase the communication and the cooperation between us regarding the essential core causes that we are going to address, so that the resolutions of this summit will measure up to the expectations of the Arab world. We look forward today to a meeting that will consecrate the Arab solidarity and consecrate our desire to move forward on reforms and to consolidate our credibility throughout the world. We also are aware of the immense responsibility that is facing us, and which makes our work important in facing the challenges that our nation is facing in the midst of rapidly unfolding events throughout the world. We would like to register with satisfaction all the ideas and the suggestions that were offered in order to improve the work between the Arab countries. And in this regard, again, I would like to underscore the importance of what Secretary General of the Arab League has offered in terms in the effort to promote the cooperation between the Arab world in a fashion that is progressive and in a fashion that consolidates the economic progress in the Arab world. The Palestinian issue continues to be our most important cause. It is a source of great concern for us because it is tied to issues that have a bearing on the security not only in the region but also throughout the world, especially after the increase in the level of aggression by the Israelis that has been leaving behind numerous victims, in respect of whom I ask you to stand for a minute of silence, please. Thank you all. And as we underscore our refusal of the policy of assassinations of leaders and the targeting of civilians, we believe that it is extremely important to stick to international legitimacy in order to get out of the current crisis, and that is more needed today than anywhere else at any other time in the past. We think we should do this through our effort at the United Nations and other important international organizations, and make sure they bring to bear all their influence in order to implement the roadmap and to bring about a lasting, fair and comprehensive solution. We would like to reiterate a call to these parties in order to accelerate providing a security for the Palestinian people and to stop erecting the wall, and also to help condemn the policy of the fait accompli in order to allow the Palestinian people to recover its legitimate national rights and to build its own country and provide peace for all the peoples of the region. Building a new era of peace in the Middle East also requires and is predicated on the recovering of Syria and Lebanon of all their territories. And in this regard, we also would like to stress the importance of Iraq recovering its sovereignty as soon as possible. And we hope that these steps will take place within respect for the dignity of the Iraqi people and within efforts to safeguard its territorial integrity, so that it can recover its sovereignty and take control of its destiny. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very eager to consecrate the principles of international human rights. We also respect the Arab Charter of Human Rights that express our call for democracy, for justice, for dialogue, and for tolerance. My conviction is that this charter will help our nations move forward on the road of progress, improve the status of women, allow her to participate fully in the civil society, and allow her to contribute to the progress and the stability of our society. Our societies, East and West, that have undergone a number of experiences throughout their histories, are capable today, thanks to their vast patrimony, to engage in efforts to enter modernity in a fashion that does not destroy its national characteristics. In this respect, we have always condemned all forms of extremism and the terrorism that results from them. And we have exerted a considerable number of efforts within the international framework in order to deter such actions such as terrorism, which is condemned by all religions in the world. But on the other hand, we called for an effort to address the root causes of these phenomena, such as poverty and exclusion. Today, we are driven to start constructive, rich relationships with all countries in the world that can promote understanding, stability, and tolerance, hoping to be able to contribute to building a more stable world. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, the efforts that are being exerted by our countries in order to improve their economies, in order to promote the role of the private sector, consistent with what is happening in the rest of the world, call upon us to improve our relationships and to consolidate the relationships between our countries, our economies, in order to improve their competitiveness and raise them to a level of outstanding performance, both regionally and internationally. In this respect, we would like to stress the fact that we are satisfied with efforts that have been made in order to promote the free trade zone in the Arab world through expansion of the programs of cooperation, both bilaterally and at the level of the region. In this regard, it is important that we continue to work together at the level of the technology and at the level of the emerging sciences so that we can better manage our resources in this regard also, we certainly hope that the Arab League will also play its part in the information technologies, especially that Tunis will be hosting in 2005 an IT International Summit. And we are convinced that the Arab countries, with all its governments and civil organizations, will spare no effort in helping this summit to succeed. And we hope that this will be an opportunity that will allow us to reduce the digital divide and promote science and technology in our countries. Ladies and gentlemen, the nature of the upcoming era calls upon us to come out of this meeting with understandings and resolutions that will help us rise to the expectations of the Arab people. We should be able to realize that and achieve that so long as our solidarity continues to promote our credibility throughout the world and throughout our peoples. We would like to renew our welcome to you. We wish you a nice stay here, and we ask God to help us reach our noble goals. Thank you very much for your presence. Now I would like to give the floor to His Majesty Sheikh Khalifa, Premier of Bahrain, who will speak on behalf of the King of Bahrain and President of the 15th session of the summit, and who couldn't make it today, unfortunately.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
In the name of Allah, the most clement and most merciful, Your Excellency President Zine Al Abidine Ben Ali, President of the Republic of Tunisia, Your Majesties, Your Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to take part in the Arab Summit in Tunisia and to relate to you the greetings of His Majesty Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the King of Bahrain, and his best wishes for success for your summit. It is my pleasure to read to you his message to this august assembly. In the name of Allah, dear leaders, Mr. Secretary General, Your Excellencies, I was honored, and Bahrain was honored, to assume the presidency of the summit in its last edition, and today we are pleased to meet again in Tunis in the midst of the Grand Maghreb to begin a new edition at the highest level of our Arab cooperation. We also would like to formally ask His Excellency President Ben Ali to take over formally the presidency, and we wish you all success in dealing with the momentous issues that we have to address. And we'd like also to submit to you the final report of the follow-up commission of last year. And as much as we were happy with this responsibility, we became aware of the need to empower this organization through a more modern system, through fresher ideas, through more effective mechanisms that would allow us to follow modernity and follow the events around the world. This league is for us a force of moderation and a force of responsible policies. It is also a testimony to Arab solidarity that we should continue to be committed to the League and to its work. And all the recommendations and the new ideas that were offered by a number of participants are a confirmation of this decision. And the spirit of reform that is rising out of the League is also symptomatic of a desire on the Arab parties to engage in responsible reforms, and also indicates their ability to deal confidently with the international community in order to move forward the movement of reform in the Middle East and peace in the Middle East. For there is no way to promote the peace at the expense of people's freedom, such as the Palestinian people, for whom the time has come to achieve its rights and to have its own nation with Jerusalem as its capital. The time has also come to withdraw from the Lebanese and from the Syrian lands. We ask all parties to seize the historic opportunities embodied in the initiative of His Majesty, our elder brother, Prince Abdullah ibn Abdulaziz Al Saud, and which has become the de facto Arab initiative since the Beirut summit. Similarly, we believe that achieving a common victory for Iraq is predicated on the ability of the Arab countries and the world indeed to look beyond the occupation and into cooperating with Iraq in order to pull him back into the arena of the Arab cooperation for the best of the Iraqi people. Especially that the Iraq now seems to be moving towards a rather dangerous course. Let us be clear. This nation is bent on peace, wants justice, and condemns injustice and extremism, and wants to contribute and continue to contribute to this civilization, to human civilization. May God help us all, and may God oversee our success. Thank you.
الأخ فخامة الرئيس رئيس الدولة.
Mr. President of Tunisia. Thank you, Mr. Khalifa bin Salman Al Khalifa, Premier of Bahrain, for his important message. Now I'd like to give the floor to His Excellency Amar Moussa, Secretary General of the League of Arab States. Mr. President Zine Abdin Ben Ali, Arab leaders, Your Majesties, ladies and gentlemen, we've waited for a long time for this meeting, and the Arab nation, which is going through a period of anger and frustration, is pinning its hopes on a common Arab position that thwarts the present dangers and faces its challenges and releases the potential of its boys and girls who are aspiring to a future of democracy, freedom and progress, social and economic. Organizing this meeting in this unprecedented historical juncture sends a clear message in which there is an Arab insistence on maintaining the rights of the Arabs to their land, insisting on the rights of the Arabs to face occupation wherever it takes place and to resist it, a message on the Arab part that insists on being part of the human culture and the human civilization and to contribute to it in its own way. This message belies the essential rule that's been ignored by those who says the world is coming to an end, or those who insist on extremism. Allow me to start by extending to President Zine Abdin and to the country of Tunisia and its people congratulations on the occasion of the assumption of the presidency of this summit. I've known President Zine Abdin as a proponent, a fervent proponent of the efforts of the League of Arab States, which is called upon to look at itself in the mirror and try to deal with its deficiencies and inadequacies. That is what is needed in order for us to be able to get on the train of modernism. I would like also to address His Majesty King of Bahrain and thank him for the work he's done last year and what the League has been able to achieve under his leadership last year, and all the recommendations that he put forward in order to improve the work of our organization. And in order to move more forward and to bring the Arab citizen closer to modernity. Mr. President, there is no need for me to elaborate on the realities of the world today, which is a very stormy reality that is characterized by excessive use of force, inadequate policies, and double standards. The current world order has not been able to solve the social-economic problems. On the contrary, the problems have been exacerbated, which may predict a dwindling of the chances of the world to reach a satisfying level of peace. The Arab world, in this respect, is living exactly through that. There is a dwindling of the chances to see peace and security in the foreseeable future in this world. Whether at the level of the economic reality or the social reality. Despite all that, the Arab world has moved politically. In Beirut, it has initiated a number of ideas to solve the Palestinian-Israeli problem, indicating what is needed in order to achieve this peace. We have maintained and insisted and underscored the importance of the state of Palestine, with East Jerusalem as its capital. We also insisted on solving the problem of the refugees pursuant to Resolution 194. We also insisted on the withdrawal from the Arab lands that was occupied since 1967. But we have opted for a comprehensive peace, provided Israel respects and its obligations under this plan. We followed the evolution of the situation in Iraq with considerable concern. And we have strived to maintain the relationship between the Iraqi people and its Arab brothers. We also have made sure that the United Nations examines all the options available and works for the return of the sovereignty of Iraq to Iraqis, which is, in our view, the most important thing that needs to be done in addition to the withdrawal of the occupying forces. The Arab diplomacy has also followed the situation in Sudan. It has supported efforts by the Sudanese government tending to reconstruct the south of Sudan through Arab fundings and through Arab cooperation that has resulted in allocating $200 million for a reconstruction project in South Sudan. We also follow the events taking place in Darfur and which call for humanitarian help immediately. And we also follow the reconciliation efforts in Somalia. On another hand, the Arab world initiated development efforts that can result in a qualitative change in the life of the Arab citizen, for which he has waited for a long time. The right to freedom, the right to democracy, the right to participation, the right to self-determination. The call for the reform and call of modernism is a rightful call, it is supported by a real need, especially that we agree that development and progress and acceleration of it springs from a popular desire and a popular need that respects the need for dynamism at the same time as it respects the particular characteristics of each culture. However, there has been a great deal of confusion about the principles involved, which seem at some times to be rather contradictory or selective. As you mentioned through your responsibilities, our needs to coordinate our efforts in order to achieve common interests and to maintain common interests with our friends, in a word that does not deny us our rights while it imposes responsibilities on us. A number of suggestions and recommendations coming from the Arab parties have come to consolidate our vision of promotion of democracy, promotion of the status of women, a promotion of Arab strategy for comprehensive reform that is compatible with modernity and is compatible with international and universal principles. Among these ideas, there are recommendations talking about peace in the region. However, from these recommendations, a number of regional considerations were excluded, such as the need for disarmament, general disarmament in the whole region. There is also an effort to refute the possibility of dealing unilaterally with the most influential powers in the world. In this respect, you can see very well that the best course for the Arabs in the midst of this very stormy circumstances is to formulate a common position that covers the Arab world in its totality, and also to promote an arms-free region in the Middle East. And I would suggest that this particular subject be discussed in the League of Arab States, which is the common denominator between us all. And I mean here the Ministerial Council or any other commission you might decide on. I would like to say that this cooperation has to be not unilateral, because none of us can unilaterally negotiate and have a bargaining position that is interesting enough for them to help them promote their best interest. Mr. President, you entrusted me on the day I was nominated to this position over 3 years ago. I was asked to modernize the League of Arab States and all its institutions so as to allow it to perform its duties regionally and internationally in the best way possible. And I did do just that. And today I would like to offer to you specific recommendations that I formulated on the basis of suggestions that I received from member states that was formulated by specialized commissions that were meant by experts and professionals. I have relayed these recommendations to all the member states, and they are 9, including a consultative council, an Arab tribunal, a Security Council, Arab Security Council, an Economic and Social Council, an Arab Development Bank that will allow us to promote free trade and to promote the private sector, in addition to the social and economic councils. I also suggested a body that would allow for civil organizations to play an active part. In addition to that, I have called for a system of voting in the Arab League that should be binding for all members. Also, a mechanism to implement compliance, and in a fashion that is compatible with what is used in other organizations in the world, either regional or international. And finally, a council of scholars and intellectuals from the Arab world that would discuss the main burning issues that the Arab world is facing today, and which would face and thwart and belie the accusations that the Arabs are backwards. We hope that these recommendations will be taken seriously, and we hope that in our next edition that will take place in next March in Algeria, a follow-up will take place. Mr. President, the League of Arab States has been subject to a lot of criticism. Some of the criticism is rightful because it springs from objective motivations that want to improve our performance. Some other criticism, however, is calling for the dissolution of the League of Arab States as if it were the cause behind our predicament today. But that is not true, as you know, because the League has been part of the solution, has been part of the remedies. And the truth is that the League has not been empowered in order to play its role perfectly, either from the standpoint of funding or from the standpoint of capabilities and from competences. So from the human resources point of view and from the funding, we have been behind. But despite that, and since its genesis over 60 years ago, the League of Arab States has contributed tremendously, and it continues to be a forum that gathers all the Arabs. And we have been able to achieve a lot despite the shortcomings and despite the inadequate circumstances in which we've been operating. And we covered, we dealt with Sudan, we dealt with the Comoros Islands, now we're dealing with Iraq. And through its experts and through the representatives of these countries, we have accomplished a great deal, as I said, in promoting Arab solidarity. The League has dealt with a number of issues, economic, cultural, social, and as we look at the free trade Arab zone, which we were able to set up in months, basically. And all the other commissions, scholarly commissions, which are expert committees that were set up to look at specific problems. In doing so, we have sort of contradicted all the claims of backwardness that were directed towards us. We also did a lot in order to promote the status of women. And we have worked cooperatively with a great number of international organizations and regional organizations, namely organizations from Latin America, which extended an invitation to us to work with her. We also promoted our culture in the book fair in Frankfurt, and we continue to work seriously despite all the shortcomings and despite the lack of support. Mr. President, the League of Arab States, with all its institutions and secretariat, is an expression, an important expression of the concord between us, and it's the guarantor of what we do. It is the mechanism that allow us to talk to each other. So let us not let it collapse and fade away. We are going through a very momentous period in this history, and we hope to be able to navigate through it, through this institution, and thanks to this institution. Mr. President, in a long report that I submitted, I have elaborated on the economic situation, social situation, political situations in the Arab world. I talked about Somalia, I talked about Palestine, Iraq, and other issues, and also talked about a number of accomplishments that we have been able to do. And finally, I think a meeting of the decision makers today is a cause for all the Arab people to look forward to and look up to you. And as the classic Arab poet Al-Mutanabbi said, he said, agreement is essential for any country to achieve, or any nation to achieve progress. Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency, Secretary General Amr Moussa, for this substantive message. And now I invite you to listen to the message of Mr. Arafat. And it is my pleasure on this occasion to salute our militant brother Yasser Arafat, whom we wished could be with us today. I will also salute the resistance of the Palestinian people, and we'd like to express our total support for him in his quest for his national rights. In the name of Allah, the most clement and most merciful, and who tells us, I shall strengthen those who were enfeebled on earth and turn them into empowered leaders and heirs. Thus Allah ordained, and thus it shall be. In the name of Allah, Allah is great. Your Excellency, President Zain al-Abidin, the shining beacon of the Arabs and President of the Arab Summit, Your Majesties, Your Excellencies, distinguished Arab leaders, allow me at the outset to express my gratitude to His Majesty, our brother King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, for chairing the previous Arab Summit, and congratulate the brother, President Zain al-Abidin, the beacon of the Arabs, on his decision to host this summit, this Arab summit in Tunis, and wish you all the success in this mission, important mission, in these critical conditions we face and challenges we face as an Arab nation. Welcome to all. From Palestine, from Holy Jerusalem, the land of our fathers and grandfathers, I salute you in the name of our Palestinian resilient people who is resisting in the land of resistance, as you are meeting today in Tunis in these critical times of our history as an Arab people, to lay out a unified Arab strategy in defense of our existence, of our future, and of our Arab national security, and to extend help to our people in Palestine, in Holy Jerusalem, and also to the Iraqi people. Our Palestinian people is convinced that Palestine, the president of which has been precluded by the Israeli occupation from attending this historic summit, is not absent, but present through you. Palestine was and shall forever be in the heart and soul of our brothers and Arab leaders, and in the hearts of soul of the Arab nation, for its cause is the central cause of the Arab people. And the danger we face in Palestine today, as the Israeli occupation is waging a war of extermination and erecting a Eurasian wall and doing settlements and engaging in ugly crimes daily against our people in the West Bank and Gaza. And lately, what's happening as I speak in Rafah, in addition to what's happening in Jerusalem against our holy sites, both Christian and Islamic. And in Bethlehem, which was reoccupied again, and Gaza, Khan Yunis, and Beit Hanun, and Dir al-Balah, and Galilee, Tulkarem, Qalqilia, Jenin, Nablus, and others, which calls for a serious position for Palestine. My friends, is the first direction we pray to, and the site of our prophet, and the birthplace and the site of the resurrection of Christ. The conspiracy over Palestine, as everybody knows, started in 1897 in the Basel Jewish Congress and continues until now. Your Excellency, President Zine al-Abidine Ben Ali, the beacon of the Arabs, Your Majesties, for more than 40 months, our land and our people have been subjected to an unprecedented escalation, unmatched in its fierceness, and it is an unjust Israeli aggression that targets the land, the people, the holy sites, the infrastructure, and in an effort to drive out our resilient people from its land, despite its resistance and its faith. Yes, faith. The government of Israel uses, as you well know, all manner of heavy weapons, including internationally prohibited weapons, internationally prohibited weapons, such as uranium-based weapons and prohibited gases and others. It is waging an open war and a military escalation that is unjust against the Palestinian people. What happened in the last few days in the city of Rafah can be considered among the ugliest crimes in recent history, and in violation of every divine principle, humanitarian principle and moral principles, given the number of victims and injured that fell among our people, children, women, men. The force with which this aggression has been done has destroyed our houses, infrastructure, official buildings, was like an earthquake that ignored all international rules and international decisions and international resolution, including Security Council Resolution 1540, and ignored the international condemnation. And despite all that, they continue to practice the ugliest war crimes and racism. This is a policy that has reached its peak with the Israeli occupation's decision to erect a racial wall. This racial wall that forfeits 58% of the West Bank and prevents us from building our own nation on our land. Is this acceptable? Is this acceptable? Is this acceptable? Yes, on our own Palestinian land, with its capital, Jerusalem. And the government of Israel continues its military escalation everywhere on our land. It continues to practice terrorism, to commit crimes, assassinations of our leaders and cadres, national cadres, including what happened in the for Sheikh Ahmed Yassin and my brother, the martyr, Dr. Abdelaziz Rantisi, and my brother, the martyr Abu Ali Mustafa, and others, among thousands of other martyrs who fell among the leaders and the cadres who are militants. The government of Israel in this open war and through reoccupying our land indicates that it refuses the peace plan proposed by the Arabs and the international agreements that it signed, including 242, 338, 354, 252, 1397, 1515, 1544, and 197. And the roadmap on which it put 14 reservations in order to get it out of its substance and to delay the work of the quartet in order to advance the peace mission, because this Israeli government is not interested in peace, but works in order to consecrate the occupation. And here I ask you, my brothers, Arab leaders, to consider the importance of the Jerusalem Commission to make sure its meetings are held continuously and as early as possible in order to follow up on the events that Jerusalem is subjected to, the holy city of Jerusalem, in order to prevent and to fight the risk of Judaization of Jerusalem, and to fight for its people, because Jerusalem is a responsibility that lies on the shoulder of every one of us. And hopefully we will pray together in Jerusalem, come what come may, and no matter who opposes that. In the name of Allah, we shall do it. They shall enter the mosque as they entered it the first time, as Allah says. And they will do what they have to do. They will do what they have to do. Allah never goes back on His promise. Allah never goes back on His promise. Your Excellency, President, Your Majesties, distinguished Assembly, despite that, and in fighting this war, and in facing this war, the will of our people will never be broken. Its resistance will continue. Its conviction in the need to face this all-out war and all its crimes against our people, the draining of our land, the closing of our plants, the continuing destruction of our infrastructure, of our economy, including the raids on banks, the forfeiting of our resources for more than 40 months, as you know. We are facing this aggression and just aggression. This does not shake our conviction in our right to independence and freedom. And here comes the importance of an international action in order to bring to bear pressure on this Israeli government in order to stop its aggression and its occupation of our land and our people, and the return to the peace of the courage, to the peace of the courageous, and the Saudi initiative of peace, the Arab Saudi initiative, the roadmap, and all the good efforts that were exerted internationally and on the Arab level, from the Quartet, from our Arab leaders, all of them, especially our neighbors in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan. And in facing this war, my friends, dear leaders, we reiterate our commitment to the choice of peace, fair, lasting, and comprehensive, that satisfies our national demands that are unshakable through the total withdrawal of the Israeli forces from the lands, the Palestinian lands and the Arab lands occupied since 1967, including the Golan Heights and south of Lebanon, in order to found an independent Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital. Jerusalem, and found a just settlement to the return of the refugees on the basis of the International Resolution 194 and the Arab Peace Initiative. We reassert before you our refusal, absolute refusal, to the targeting of civilians, whether they are Palestinians or Israelis, because that runs counter to our principles, to our morals, and our humanitarian fight our faiths that refuse terrorism, and we have affirmed our acceptance of all initiatives that were offered by the international community, from Oslo to Sharm el-Sheikh to Camp David, Wye River and Taba, and the recommendations of the Mitchell Commissions and the understanding of tenants, and our agreement and our acceptance of the roadmap, which was consecrated by the International Quartet and the Security Council that aims at implementing the vision of President Bush in founding a Palestinian state next to the Israelis. Your Excellencies, Majesties, distinguished Assembly, here before you in this Arab Summit, I declare here before you, to you and to the world, that we are committed to the peace of the courageous, and that the PLO and our national authority and our security apparatuses are ready to accept all the responsibilities, security responsibilities that derive from the international agreements that we signed in all parts of our land from which the Israeli forces will withdraw, pursuant to the implementation of the roadmap, and we welcome an Arab or international mechanism in order to supervise the implementation of this mission with the Israelis and an international force for the protection of our people. Recently, we heard some declarations from the Israeli party that talks about the intentions of this government to withdraw from Gaza and from some settlement outposts. But we insist here that Israeli withdrawal, according to all agreements from Oslo all the way down, must include the Gaza Strip, and a geographic unit, and political unit and legal unit that applies to the West Bank the same way it applies to Gaza Strip, under an international sponsorship, an Arab sponsorship. And I declare from the midst of the siege that the occupation and the military option that Israel has chosen will not bring about peace and security for the Israelis, and that only negotiations on the basis of international legitimacy and the road map and the Arab initiative are the guarantors of the peace and good neighborhood and good neighborly relationship between the two people in the whole region, for the promotion of a better future for our children and their children, for the better future of our children and their children. Your Excellencies Zain al-Abidin bin Ali, Your Majesties, the many challenges face our nation today, Arab nation today, and I call from within the siege to consolidate the Arab cooperation and the Arab solidarity in every way possible. Nothing will protect the Arab nation more than its standing shoulder to shoulder and its solidarity. The Arab people look forward towards a decision to promote the Arab solidarity through a further reinforcement of the role of the Arab League. Allow me to call this summit to help the Iraqi people maintain its unity, and maintain its territorial integrity for all the Iraqis, all of them, who are very dear to us. I salute you from the land of Palestine. I salute you from the land of Palestine, the land of the martyrs, the land of resistance, the land of resilience, the land that was important for Muhammad, our prophet, the birthplace of Jesus and where he was resurrected. And allow me to say that the resistance of the Palestinian people, who is very proud to belong to the Arab nation, I reiterate the importance of your help to us, to the Palestinian people, which is helping us continue to resist and to defend our holy sites and our land, holy sites, Christian and Islamic. At the end, I'd like to thank our Arab friends who have continued their help and their support for our people, and also all our friends around the world. I wish you all the success. In the name of God, I wish you more success, and I wish you a positive conclusion for your summit. And together, until we reach Jerusalem. In the name of Allah, in the name of Allah, the most clement and most merciful. They shall enter the mosque as they enter it first. They shall enter the mosque as they entered it first. Thank you. May God's peace be on you. Thank you, President Arafat, for his important message, and we reiterate our support for the just Palestinian cause and our standing by the Palestinian people in his just struggle. And now I'd like to give the floor to the Secretary General to review the messages that we received from a number of international organizations. Thank you, Mr. President. The summit received messages from Vladimir Putin, the President of the Russian Federation, from Kofi Annan, Secretary General of the United Nations, Abdallah Badawi, the Premier of Malaysia, and the non-aligned movement, Abdullah Gulman, Deputy Prime Minister of Turkey, from the Japanese government, the Arab Investment Organization, the Arab Workers' Union, the Islamic Congress, and from a number of other organizations, from a number of Arab and international parts of the world. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I would like to again extend a welcome to the guests, representatives of Arab organizations. I express my appreciation for the messages that we heard. and to the importance these substantive messages have for the reinforcement of Arab cooperation. And we urge the distribution of these messages to all delegations. I would like to reiterate again my thanks for following the proceedings, and I would adjourn our meeting until 5, at which time we will sit in closed sessions. And now I will invite everybody to go down to the lobby to take a picture. Thank you.